Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Macro Chat Show. I'm laughing because we had technical difficulties, and this is take two. Welcome, Rik Littlefield. He is the person who has developed and all in his mind about Zerene Stacker we're going to dive into. I'm going to make this quick because we're already 14 minutes in, and he was chatting for a while, and we didn't even know we were on YouTube. So sorry. Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. I see Mike's here. I see Becky's here. Jan's here. I see more people, but I just want to get into Rik. So, Rik, tell me. I have to laugh. Tell me, how did you start this whole process of photographing and getting into Zerene and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So for me, photography of close-up macro micro stuff is all about curiosity. I'm interested in the subject, not so much the art of the resulting images. For some reason, I have no idea why, all my life I've been fascinated by small stuff. And so I was the kid who could always be found out sitting on the ground watching the ants, maybe for hours at a time. And, you know, to this day, I'm one of the few people I know who carries a 10x magnifier in their pocket all the time. And I haul it out and use it 4 or 5 times a day. So when I was a kid back in the early 1960s, I was doing things like, you know, raising native silk moths, and I wanted to show somebody else what it was that I was doing. It was transient phenomena, right? These things, they hatch, they grow up, they die, they dry out. How do you show it off? And so at some point I hatched this bright idea of putting a magnifying glass in front of my mother's Argus C3 rangefinder camera, with the intention of taking pictures of things that were, about the same size as the film inside the camera. So this was, you know, true macro, 1-to-1 through a magnifying glass with a rangefinder camera in the early 1960s on film. So it took several days minimum to find out whether I'd had any success with my bright ideas or not. It did not work gloriously well, but it worked well enough to hook me on it. And so I went on from there to buy an SLR and a bunch of film and a bellows and, you know, reversing. I had to make reversing rings at that time. You couldn't buy those things off eBay. So I machined that stuff in my father's metalworking equipment.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a very interesting experience. And so that continued as a hobby throughout all of my late childhood and adult life. You know, raising bugs, taking close-up pictures of flowers, and all sorts of stuff. Meanwhile, on the other side of my life, I was making a living doing software development for scientific and research applications, mostly initially at the University of Washington, and then I was working for a contract research outfit that runs some of the U.S. national laboratories, doing a lot of graphics and image processing applications. You could kind of imagine how these things are going to come together. But it wasn't quite that simple because for most of that time, there were no digital cameras and computers were too slow to do anything about it. But I kind of had in the back of my mind that someday it was going to happen. And someday it did. For me, someday was 2004 when Canon came out with their original digital Rebel, a 6-megapixel DSLR for less than $1,000. And all of a sudden, I had in hand a camera that would record good digital images, that had interchangeable lenses, and I had at that point personal computers that were fast enough to do something useful with. So I got into what we now call focus stacking. It didn't even have a name at that time. I originally referred to it as just extended depth of field. Then the name took over and I went with it. So in that time frame, there was no Zerene Stacker. There was other software. Helicon Focus had just come out with a product. There was a source thing called Combine Z, which I used. I kind of bought the camera, acquired the software, jumped on it, figured out how to do the nuts and bolts of making this stuff actually work. Published an article in News of the Lepidopterus Society, butterfly and moth people, telling them how to do this stuff. Got associated with a website which was new at the time, started by other people. That was photomicrography.net.
We'll show that too. We'll show that later on. Yeah.
Sounds good. A short while after that, I got to be admin of photomicrography.net, so I had an opportunity to sort of nudge the development of that community in the directions that I wanted it to go, not necessarily the direction that the original creators had wanted it to go, but that's okay. They were gone by that point. And then things just went along until 2008, when I had an opportunity to sort of step back from my day job. It was interesting developing software for other people, but my passion for that had sort of disappeared by that point. On the other hand, I still had a passion for photography. Mm-hmm. So I was able to retire from my day job with an intention to do more photography. Well, retirement is an administrative status, not a lifestyle. There was never any golf on the agenda. I was going to do more photography. But it turns out, of course, the kinds of photography that I like to do require software. And I wasn't all that happy with what I could get from other people. Figured with my own background, maybe I could write something better for myself. So I did that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then it turns out a lot of other people like to do the same kinds of stuff that I do. They wanted to use my software, and so I started selling licenses, and hey presto, despite pretty much all of my planning, I was back in the software business. And that's where things have gone since then. So these days I actually spend more of my time helping other people make images than I do making any of my own. But that's fine, because there's a gazillion people out there who are much better artists than I am, and they're making these wonderful images that I get to look at and feel good about having helped to create them.
Isn't that true? That's so great. I remember back in the days when I was in college, I was a late bloomer. I was raising children and all that. I didn't go to college. I didn't graduate till 2007. So, but I went to college and then I went back. But I loved macro photography also. But I went, one of the biology professors, or I don't remember, he had this big, huge machine. And it was like a microscope type thing, but we couldn't print. So he's like, he knew I was in the art side of it. And I was so excited but you couldn't print even the pictures. It was so bad that I didn't even really have any hope to even think about stacking. Because truthfully, at that time, I didn't even know about stacking. I just like, gosh, you can't even get up that close. And then I started seeing Zerene and Helicon. I didn't know about the other one, though, the other one that you mentioned. But wow, what an amazing program. I have to tell you, though, really quick, last show that we had, I was so excited to have you on. I wanted to show everybody Zerene, so I had like this planned out. I had a real fast stack that I was just going to show them. And technical problems. AD was out photographing the fall foliage, and so you think we have technical now. I am just so bad when it comes to behind the scenes. So I ended up doing a basic tutorial on Zerene, and I did the yellow. So there's two questions Andy had asked about, AD had asked about, how did you come up with Zerene? And then maybe the second, maybe you'll answer my question when you answer that question of how you got the name.
Well, the name actually comes from the scientific name of a butterfly that was important in my youth. There was a large orange butterfly that I did some raising of, and it was very flashy. Spirea zerene, one of the fritillaries. And so I thought, Zerene, let's see. Oh, it turns out also that that Latin name, derives from the word zerina, which happens to mean dry, parched, which is a perfect description of the area where I live right now in eastern Washington, 7.5 inches annual precipitation. And I've also been told it's a good description of my sense of humor. So everything kind of fits together there. Now, I did have to become bilingual about the pronunciation, because in the scientific circles, the final E is pronounced Zerene. But of course, out on the street, people don't do it that way. They pronounce it Zerene. And after a while, I decided, that's okay. That kind of rhymes with serene, which is the way I like people to feel when they're using my software.
There you go.
Everything works. That's the explanation.
Yeah, no, that's great.
The icon, the yellow smiling dog icon, is the wing pattern of a different butterfly, whose scientific name is also Zerene. It's a California dogface.
Oh, wow. See, now I'm going to do a couple things because I want to share some of the images that you had sent me because I also want to know your thought process, why you're photographing, but then also too how when you're photographing and then the development of Zerene. So it's just like it comes as a pair, I guess, in this show today, you guys. So let me go ahead and I'm going to do a screen share. And I'm going to promise not to mess this up since I already messed up the show already. Let's see. Let's go to the screen share. It's going to be gray first. And I think what I'll do is I'll go here. It'll just be us on. And I mean, just your information, so nobody can see us now. But this was something that I found interesting, and then you have some images of this moth, right? This is what you were talking about earlier, correct?
Yeah, that's the article from 2005 that I wrote for the Lepidopterist Society. They selected one of my images to use as the cover illustration. That is a live moth in its daytime resting pose. And well-focused stack, there's like 50 images that went into making that single image that appears on the cover. It's pretty small. There's a little scale bar down at the bottom, which I doubt anybody can read, but that says 5 millimeters.
Oh, yes.
So
right
we're
here.
looking at, very nicely done. We're looking at a, I appreciate well done button pushing.
That's about as good as I can get.
So we're looking at, I think, at an area that's, something like maybe 8 by 12 millimeters for that whole image.
Wow, I think here we go. Here's this one. Is this the original, or I mean stacked? Because you could see the details.
Yeah, that's the stacked output.
Look at that.
Zoom in, so you can see individual eye facets.
Yes,
you
love
can see
it.
little barbed tips on all of the scales on the thorax. You can see, down at the bottom center of your screen right now, right at the knee on the front leg, there's a claw sticking out.
Oh, yeah, check that out.
It's got a bizarre feature of anatomy. It turns
out
some moths have them, some moths don't. Nobody's really very clear on what they do.
Wow.
So this happens all the time when you start taking a close look at insects or plants or anything else, especially with insects. Very common. You take a close look and you see some feature. You don't know what it does. You ask the experts and they say, gee, we don't know either.
Because they probably, I mean, that's it's such a different world. And it's amazing to me that you've got it 50 stacks with it alive. I mean, that's really, really cool. That's really hard to do.
It is. To avoid stepping on anybody's ethical sensibilities, I was very careful in that article to only photograph livestock. And one of the challenges was, as you say, how do you do a live moth? Well, the answer is you select your moth very carefully. This is one of the kinds of moths that survives by hiding in plain sight in the daytime by not moving. So as long as the lights are on, that guy is willing to sit for like 3 days without moving.
Wow.
Now he moves just a little bit. So I actually had to shoot 3 stacks to get one that was really assemblable into this final output. He kept doing push-ups a little bit.
Saying, I'm the stud muffin here, leave me alone. Usually I love when they do that. Oh my gosh, look at how detailed it is. It's so beautiful. Very, very pretty. I wanted to show them too, see, everybody knows, the macro people, that it's hard. You have to stack and get it up close. Now, what is this one right here? This is the before and after.
It's actually the after and the before. Single frame on the right, stacked image on the left.
Yeah, so pretty. Very, very nice. I wanted to ask you, what was this?
That is an egg of a small blue butterfly. We can read the scale bar on that one. 1/2 millimeter width on that egg. The eggs are just fantastically detailed, beautiful things to look at, and some of the sculpturing of that is relevant taxonomically. It helps with the identification. And again, this is stacked on the left, single image on the right.
Yes.
This is the level of detail that you would see looking through a 100-power microscope. But when you're
Wow.
looking through the 100-power microscope in real time, what you can see is just what's on the right. So what you do is you fly the fine focus up and down, and you try to build up an image inside your head of what that thing would look like if only you could see it all in focus at once. What focus stacking lets us do is make a real image that actually is in focus all at once. So it's just glorious. That left image shows more detail on that egg than anybody can see through their own microscope in real time.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And that's why I appreciate so much that you developed this wonderful software for us to be able to do this. It's such a great feeling to get the stack and then it's done and you're like, wow, this is so cool. And I mean, you're getting micro photography here, which is even better, which I have to dive into myself. I have to tell you, I haven't done any micro because I don't have that. We'll talk about that later when we go into the equipment section. Oh my gosh, you guys, Rik's got some awesome things to show you guys. Let me share this image too. What is this? This is really cool. It looks like an eye, but is it a moth? Is it the moth?
It is an eye. This is
Oh.
the very face of a painted lady butterfly.
Wow.
It's the most common butterfly in the world, probably. Certainly the one with the widest distribution. Everybody knows it. Nobody knows that its eyes are hairy. But it turns out that painted lady butterflies have very, very hairy eyes. Most butterflies have smooth eyes. Yeah. And again, here's this issue, right? We know, as a matter of fact, that some butterflies have hairy eyes and a lot of butterflies have smooth eyes, but we have, as far as I know, no idea whatsoever as to why some do it one way and some do it the other. Obviously, it works fine for all of them because they're still flying around.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, I would never, I don't think I've ever seen an eye with hair or anything on it. I mean, just I don't want to get into the technical stuff, but you know what I mean.
Well, I know what's going to happen here. You're gonna go off in your browser. You're going to do a Google image search on painted lady butterfly images, and you're going to see if you can find any that show hairy eyes. And I'll bet you can.
Oh well, now that people can do this with the software and stuff, and then the goodies that we're going to share later on. This is just beautiful, really, really pretty. Okay, so let me stop screen sharing for a moment. Let me make sure that yes, because there's a couple other things that we'll get into. So I have to make sure that I screen share, stop. There we go. Are we good? We're good.
We're good.
I didn't mess it up. Yay! So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into critique time. And then we'll go into your equipment.
Sounds good.
Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen again. And I have asked everybody to give me their goals. And most of you guys that have been here before know you have the goals, a little bit of information. That's one of the requirements. So if you want to submit your images, then we have a Facebook. You can go there, or you can go to my website at sullivanjphotography.com and submit stuff there. And yes, this is every other Thursday. I see that down below. So our show is every other Thursday. So I won't be taking any images next week, but the following week I'll be grabbing them. So this image, we will go ahead and do a screen share. And then what I'll do is I'll read off what the photographers have said. We're only doing 2 today. So Cedric, we will do yours next week, or in 2 weeks, we'll do yours. So this one right here is from John Brooks. And so let me go ahead and try to read this without butchering everything that he said. So he says, so I've had this giant water bug in a pill bottle for about 6 months. I've taken macros of it before, but I wanted to revisit this subject with a different lens under different conditions. I was going more for the scientific type of photo rather than the artful composition. I used a piece of white felt for the background and held this bug in a third-hand tool. I used a Nikon D3400 with a Tokina 100mm macro lens. blah, blah, blah. Let's see. And a speed flash with a homemade diffuser made from a Pringles can, and another piece of white felt as the actual diffuser. For the medium, he says he used a ISO 400 at 1/200th of a second at f8. He said, I would like to have taken more shots to get the blurry leg in focus, but I shot this in burst mode handheld. So I came up with 6 usable shots to stack. This is a rather large, menacing insect, so each shot had very little depth of field, so even the blurry legs, that is a lot more in focus after stacking than it was before. I edited the one photo with the eye in focus in Lightroom, then copied and pasted and edit settings to each of the 5 other shots that sent them in, and then he sent them into Photoshop CC to auto align the layers and stack. I copied just a little because after he cropped. He said he cropped just a little because after stacking the bottom edge was a bit blurry. And then he says, I don't know if you had enough chance, Rik, to check out that video, but I did, because he said he found the insect dead in a parking lot, and so that's when he preserved it. And then he says it's the infamous toe biter, and so he said to go watch Coyote Peterson's video on YouTube. So I did, because I was curious on what the bug looked like.
I confess I did not watch that video, but I am familiar with this bug firsthand. Not this particular one, but other ones like it that are live. And yeah, they can bite quite ferociously.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that he probably wants some of your help on stacking. I can give him, if you don't touch on certain things, I have in my mind certain things to talk to him about, but you go for first and help him out a little bit, and then I'll dive in after.
Okay. Well, for starters, getting your camera on a tripod or a rail or something would make your job simpler. This handheld shooting in burst mode works really well, but as you noticed, the camera tends to move around a little bit side to side. The reason you had that blurry section at the bottom was probably because the camera adjusted the framing up and down a little bit while you were shooting the stack, and Photoshop just didn't have sharp images at the bottom to work with in its final display. Janice, can we zoom in to the top of the head?
Sure. Is that too much? Should I go 1 to 1?
Just go 1 to 1. Yeah, okay, and now scroll so we can see a little bit higher. See the back of the box. Okay, so we can see there that there's a section just behind the eye that sharp is perfectly focused, and then there's another section back kind of on the horizon that is sharp and perfectly focused, and in between the two there's a band of blur. We call that focus banding. That happens when there just wasn't a sharp source image that was focused in that area, so the software had nothing to work with. When we're doing highly detailed studio stacks, so we can take as many pictures as we want, we try to avoid that sort of thing. But for a stack like this, handheld, you just want to get as much of a better impression as you can of the subject. I think this is just perfect. It's not supposed to be everything in focus, just enough stuff in focus so you can tell better what the critter looked like. And by the way, this picture definitely does a good job from a compositional standpoint of providing a menacing appearance. This is the sort of viewpoint that an unfortunate critter would have just before he got killed and sucked dry for dinner.
Yeah, that's I saw it, and it's pretty big. It's a water bug, they said, so I didn't know that. And
we say they bite; they actually stab. All of the true bugs have piercing mouth parts, and these guys are no exception.
Yeah, I was trying to look at that. I don't really, since I don't know.
There you go. Scroll down a bit farther. Perfect.
Is this it?
That's it.
Oh my gosh! Really? Wow.
Those are lancets. They just get stabbed right in.
Oh wow! No wonder he was in so much pain. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. But look at how cool this detail is in here. I mean, all these little, it looks like pollen, but it looks
probably like pollen to me too.
Yeah, wow. Very cool. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing about just, I mean, since he's not alive, you can just get a tripod, or if you don't have a tripod, put it on a box or something. It's hard to maneuver without a rail because you're going back and forth, but if you even just set it on something, I put bean bags or whatever, I don't know, just practice to get everything, since you're practicing the whole thing of stacking. My suggestion was to definitely, but I like it too. I think it doesn't bug me right here. I'm more of an artsy type person. I love that he's got the eyes sharp, and it does look menacing and scary, and but it's beautiful. See, and I like that too, though. I think it's nice. It's very nice. Okay. Do you have anything else?
I do. One more
Sure.
thing. You mentioned about camera on a rail. For this sort of subject that's large enough to image with an ordinary macro lens, it works really well to just leave the subject in one place, leave the camera in one place, and use the ring on the lens.
Because it's a big guy.
Yeah, the ring on the lens is labeled magnification because it's a macro lens, but it actually adjusts focus as well. And all of the focus stacking software is completely capable of handling the changes in magnification that occur when you turn the ring.
Yes.
So acquiring the focus stack by turning the ring eliminates those sort of shifting left-right, forward-backward issues that can cause alignment problems. So that's a good way to go. Just lock everything down on a tripod. Take a picture, tweak the ring, take a picture, tweak the ring, take a picture, tweak the ring, repeat 25 times. I've done that with live spiders.
Oh, yeah. See, that's great. Yeah, there you go. See, there you go, John. Play with it. You got it. You've got it for a while. So, and then, John, share that with us if you play with it again. I'd love to see it. Okay, let's go ahead and go to Jerry's. Now, Jerry's a beginner. He says, my goal for the shot was to practice. I'm a beginner and wanted to practice with stacking and working with, I think he means, he says constant listing, but I think he's just like constant stacking is what I'm assuming. I could be wrong on this. He says, this is a flowering basil leaf shot with a Sony A7R3 90 millimeter macro lens in studio. He used 1/15 of a second at f9, and his ISO was 100. He let's see, used the stack shot setup, 54 images, processed using helicom focus, and shot in manual mode. So, do you have any suggestions for him?
It's interesting. I'm looking at the image on screen right now, and I'm seeing a black background surrounded by lots and lots of black, which is great. In the copy of the image that was sent to me for critique, the left and right borders were very narrow, and in fact, the left one came dangerously close to cutting off that blue flower on the left-hand side.
Yeah, you know why? Let's do this. There it is. See, that's the
there
original.
You go. Yeah. And so the very
there you go.
First thing I thought when I saw this is, oops, that's too close on the left. And the reason it's probably the reason it's too close on the left is that when the photographer was framing this stack, he didn't notice that the framing changed from front of the stack to the back of the stack. So he picked framing based on a focus point that was convenient, and didn't realize, for example, that as the lens moves closer to the subject on the rail, the field of view gets narrower and narrower. And what the stacking packages do usually is determine field of view based on the narrowest field of view any place in the stack. So it's easy to get off by that, and the important thing is just remember, check both ends of the stack to determine the framing. Other than that, I didn't notice any technical issues with this at all. I did notice one, gosh, I'm curious issue, and that is, zoom us in a little farther. Right. Okay, so the flowers are all covered with these little drops of dew or whatever, some sort of liquid on them that appears to have come from the environment, but I don't see any of those on the leaves or stems.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I see a little bit of wetness, but no drops.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw that bit of well also. And I'm just sort of intrigued. Okay, it's stronger than that. I'm mystified as to what sort of a process caused that liquid to be just on the flowers. There's
Yeah.
something about the photograph. Here I am, curious again about the subject and the methodology.
Yeah, no, that's great. Because you would think there would be drops in here, unless, I mean, if he sprayed it, boy, he did a great job of just getting the flowers. These are really cool too. These look like little mushrooms coming out, but I know they're not. I'm just, I like to see things.
Yeah, stamens of the flowers. Yeah, clearly there's something different between those flowers and the stem and the foliage. But what it is, I have no idea. I would be interested to hear more about the process that was used to prepare this subject for photographing.
Yeah, I don't know if he's here. Oh, that was weird. AD? Okay. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's here in the chat. I haven't looked. So if you see anything, AD, let me know if he answers back, because we are 30-second delayed from everybody. But it is beautiful, isn't it? I did have a quick suggestion for him. I actually thought maybe he should just open the shadows just a little bit. I'm not going to, just like in here, just a little bit. That's just the artsy in me. I like to see a little bit more. I like the depth, though. So, but
and here's the technologist intersecting with the art. The background on that image, as it came to me, turns out to be constant RGB 111. It's not 000. It's not pure black, but it's absolutely constant 111. And again, I'm really curious to understand how that came to be. It's the sort of thing that I would expect to have happen if the background was somehow, like masked and added in as a constant value. But if that's the case, the masking was really, really good on it, because I couldn't find any artifacts. Yeah,
no, that is good. Especially if it's all, that's great that you went in and checked it all. That's awesome. Yeah, especially when it comes to printing, because if it's all 111, you'll be fine. But it could be like 0, 1, 3, and then you get a print. You're like, oops.
The reason I checked is I was looking for halos buried in dark shadows.
Gotcha.
Subjects like this that are bright, contrasty, and shot against a uniform background are often troubling for focus stacking software, because focus stacking software is in the business of preserving detail. And in edges where there isn't any real detail, the software is liable to find sort of fake detail, like, say, the edges of out-of-focus blurs of things that expand into those regions.
Yeah, and that's
this came out really good.
Yeah, it did. Okay, let me stop screen sharing. Where am I? Stop screen sharing. There we go. Okay. There we are. Yeah, no, great. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's one of the things that I love about Zerene is you have that mask, and then we can, I really do want to dive in. Let's go into the equipment, AD, and then we'll dive into Zerene too. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to get in, and you're going to let me know. Oh, I forgot an image. That one. Oh, you guys can't see. I'm going to get back to it after. There was an image, Rik, that you sent me, and I missed it. I'm so bummed. Okay, so let me go in.
There were a lot of images.
I love it, though. I think it's great. So let me get into the screen share, and you can talk to me about your setups. I'm curious. Looks like this one is this your setup here?
That is the setup that I used to shoot the small blue butterfly egg for the Lepsock article.
Oh.
So that was focus stacking circa 2005 with a Canon digital Rebel camera stuck on the back of a bellows and some extension tubes and a microscope objective stuck in front. And you can just see the little leaf there pinned into a block of wood. That's where the egg is sitting that we're taking a photograph of. And all that stuff underneath it is a 2-axis screw-driven table, which was actually co-opted from my drill press, and that's what was used to do the stepping for the focus.
Oh, that's
With,
amazing.
with a great deal of difficulty, I was able to step that thing at 1,000th of an inch focus steps, which sounds like a tiny amount, but these days that's 40 microns, and that's huge for this sort of work.
And this is the image you're talking about that you
That's
worked
the
on,
image
right?
I'm talking about, exactly.
Oh, I just love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. That's so exciting to me. Oh, yeah. And then is this, when I saw, okay, we had somebody doing micro, and he shared, he was from Vietnam, and he shared a rice weevil. It was really cool. And so I think he uses this. I think this is what he uses, this microscope. And when I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that we could even do this nowadays. That's so sad. I didn't know that.
Well, there's a lot of people that didn't know it, and back in 2005 when I did that, it was actually a very unusual technique. Ironically, the guy who coined the term photomicrography back in the late 1800s essentially did exactly the same thing. He was shooting through a microscope, and he was doing direct projection of the microscope objective onto the film. Everything old is new again. But anyway, so yeah, there's several things to point out here. One of them is that title bar up the top. This image comes from a forum posting at photomicrography.net, and it's in our frequently asked questions section. How can I put a microscope objective to my camera? And the answer in this particular image happens to be, well, you buy a microscope objective from Nikon that's a so-called infinity class objective, and you stick that on front of an ordinary telephoto lens. So that lens is actually the Canon's kit lens, 55 to 200 millimeter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there's a cleverly machined adapter, which you can now buy off eBay, that sits between the microscope objective and then screws into the filter threads of the telephoto lens. So the optics are telephoto lens in the middle, microscope objective out toward the subject, and then camera sitting on the back. And that whole assembly is mounted on the stack shock, which is an automated rail capable of making movements down in the vicinity of 1/1000th of a millimeter.
And you really need something like this, don't you, when you start getting into the micro? I mean, it seemed like it would be so difficult to.
Yeah, it's a huge help. There are other ways of doing it. You can make even finer movements if you go out and buy yourself a used microscope and attach your subject to the stage of the microscope and use the fine focus knob to move the subject. Works fine, very fine movements, and it's dirt cheap.
Yeah, that's what I used to do as a kid. This is interesting. So this has a whole mechanism with the bellows, and what is all this? This is pretty cool.
So this whole collection is a thing called the Brat Cam. It was designed and assembled by a fellow by the name of Chris Slaybaugh. Again, this is documentation that Chris posted into photomicrography.net. You're looking at a very solid steel base, and mounted on that, on the left-hand side, is a collection of rails and devices called goniometers for adjusting position and tilt of the subject very, very precisely. If he needs to make a 1/10 degree shift in the orientation of that subject, that's just a little matter of turning one of those knobs a little bit. And then on the right-hand side, at the bottom is a focus block, which was essentially harvested from a research class microscope. And so that's the fine focus knob. That thing.
Check that out.
Yeah, you can easily turn that thing by hand and make movements of 0.5 of a millimeter.
Oh yeah, those are great. Yep.
And then above that is just a bunch of mechanics and ordinary bellows, and again a microscope objective. This is a different type of objective that's designed for use with empty extension behind it, and so that's just a cone and a bellows feeding onto his Nikon camera.
And is that what you like to use as bellows? Is that your?
You know, I think I'm bored easily because I seldom use exactly the same arrangement twice. I do it all different ways. Sometimes I use ordinary lenses or what are called finite objectives on the front of bellows. Sometimes I use what are called infinite objectives on the front of telephoto lenses.
Oh, so you like to play.
Yeah, sometimes I match, and there's a whole long series of threads at photomicrography.net regarding what are called tube lenses, which are things you use in place of the telephoto lens behind an infinite objective. Photomicrography.net
Yes.
is very, very technical at times. We do artistry as well, but
let me show that too.
In there that are mind-bogglingly complicated.
So here it is, everyone. And I'm gonna, Rik, I'm gonna put all the links that you've given me and people, down below. So, and you have to fill it out and make sure you're not spamming or anything like that to get in there. And I just got in there, and it's really, you could be in there for hours, though. I mean, there's a lot of information. It's really cool.
Yes, and by the way, there's absolutely no need to register to see that. All of the content of the forums is public.
Oh, it is. You just, in order to talk to people, is that what you have to register for?
Yes.
Okay,
if
gotcha.
you want to post anything or you want to contact anybody using the forum facilities, then you have to be a registered member.
Gotcha. And then there's another one for here it is. This one also is part of it, correct? It's part of it.
Yes. Photomicrography.net sort of has two forks. One of them is the macro-micro side, and the other, close-up macro side, and the other one is the micro side. We call it amateurmicrography.net. There's a different domain name that gets you in through the amateurmicrography.net side. It has a different front page with a different image on it. And as soon as you click that center link that says forums and galleries, you're at the very same place. You're all at photomicrography.net. It makes no sense to split the discussions between close-up, macro, micro. We split them a little bit. We have separate forums for photography through the microscope, which really means through the frame of a microscope. And then photography like we've been seeing with an objective in front of camera, we call that macro. It just happens to be extreme macro.
I'm going to stop sharing for a quick so we can talk. I want to talk to you.
Okay.
Go ahead. So, yeah, you were talking about macro and then extreme macro.
So saying at photomicrography.net, we distinguish between photography through a microscope, which means anything involving the frame of a microscope, the stage of a microscope, with both the opportunities and limitations of the microscope's illumination system. If you do the trick like we were showing of sticking a microscope objective in front of a camera, we call that macro, even though it may be the very same magnification.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in our forums, we have macro stuff going up to the equivalent of what you would see through a 1,000-power microscope. But it acts like macro when you're shooting this stuff. You're illuminating from the front. You don't have any special condenser systems. It just happens to be small.
Right. No, that's cool. Well, it's a great place for people to be able, that like that kind of stuff, that want to, there's micro photographers that really love it here that watch this show. So this is a great place to connect and talk to other people. Because if you're I noticed, if you're in a project, which I'm going to share right now, hold on one second. I pulled it up because I love this project that you did. And let me get over. That's why I like to go back and forth. We used to have where AD, all he had to do is share the screen for me, but now I have to push buttons. I'm so glad I didn't screw it up. So you shared this with me. I love this. I had to share this on the show because this seems, the more I talk to you, the more I understand your thought process. You're like, why won't this click? So tell the story of, and then I'll go on and tell you what I was laughing about later. Go ahead, tell people what you think.
This thread in the forum documents my journey that started with a very, very simple question. I had this plastic table and I just couldn't get it clean. And so the question is, why won't this thing come clean no matter how much I scrub it? And
I think I have it down here. Let me see.
It was at the very top, I think.
It was? Because this is, I wanted to show the table. I think it's down below.
Scroll down.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to it. I just want to, there it is. Look, you guys, this is the setup here. This is the table, correct?
That is the cleaned section of the table.
Yes, yes.
With being looked at, you can see a microscope objective there.
Yes. Okay, so here, this is
Here is the uncleaned section of the table. This is the stuff that refused to come clean because it has all of these tiny crevices in it that dirt gets into. Now, I got to tell you, that big lump of white stuff, that's the brush, one bristle from the cleaning brush that I was trying to use.
Wow.
Pretty clearly, that's not going to get down into those cracks.
Yes.
The smaller cylinder over on the right-hand side, that's one hair from my head. And even that thing is not small enough to get down into those cracks. Yeah. So the answer to the question turned out to be, well, because there's a whole bunch of little tiny cracks that are too small to get down into with any sort of scrubbing tool.
Yeah.
But the rest of this is a stereo pair. If you're good at cross-size stereo or you have a stereo viewer, you can look at that thing like a 3D movie. It just pops out in 3D. One of the very cool things about Zerene Stacker, as opposed to any of the others, is that it can generate stereo pairs and rocking, from a single stack. I personally love stereo because I get 3D out of it. It's a very valuable source of information for me. And doing stereo always used to be a pain because you got to shoot one stack and then you got to move over and you shoot another stack. Not anymore, you don't. You shoot one stack and then you get into the software, you set a couple of numbers, and you say, make me a stereo pair. And the software figures out what that subject would have looked like if you were a little bit to the left or right of where you actually were when you shot the stack.
That's amazing.
It sounds like magic, but there's really good solid math behind it. And it works really well, even for hairy, bristly bugs or transparent subjects.
I would love to. I have actually the stuff that you put in your eyes so you could see the stereo. Don Komarachko, he was on my show, and he loves doing that kind of stuff. And so I actually went and looked at it. It's just so cool to see stuff like I didn't know Zerene. Let me show Zerene, everybody. I mean, Zerene is so much fun. This is Zerene. If you don't know Zerene, where have you been? No, because this is a great program.
So notice on that web page, near the upper left corner, there's a search box.
Yes.
And if you were live on the web page and you typed the word stereo into that search box and just waited for a few seconds, you would get pointed to a page which is about synthetic stereo. And it talks about the whole process of how to take a single stack and turn it into a stereo pair or a rocking animation.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I will do that. I will definitely. I was going to do another video on just cleaning up and all that kind of stuff. This is what I love to do, play and make videos. So then I know how to do things too. So this is part of Zerene. You got to
part of the flyer. This is the top of my flyer, which really poses the 3 reasons why you might want to do focus stacking. It's not necessarily because you don't want to have everything sharp. It's because you want to have the stuff you care about sharp while having more control to make other stuff blurred if you want to do that.
Yes, and that's what I love to do. I just stack and then I'll play with the other, and take stuff off if I want it blurred in bokeh, like you say, and it does a wonderful job. And then here's some more that and I love that you can, with the cell phones now, you could just get right on there at the bottom here. Does that take you to Zerene?
This is just the bottom. It does. Takes you to ZereneStacker.com, which is the same as ZereneSystems.com. This is the bottom of the first page of the flyer. And so the point is, the very first image we saw was clearly a landscape. It had stuff in focus from maybe a couple of feet from the camera out to the horizon. And then we come in and we get this little tiny bouquet of several flowers. Each of those is about the size of a pencil eraser.
Oh, wow.
Or moving down, we have an ant. Granted, it's a big ant, but still, even big ants are not very big. And at the bottom, that's an image of coral sand as seen through a microscope.
Really?
Yeah, each of those images is credited to a different guy, and none of them are me. I don't think of myself as a photographer, really. I do photography, but what I really am is an enabler. I help other people to do the kinds of photography they like to do.
And that's what's so nice about, I mean, what a fulfilling life. You've started something. Okay, hold on. I got to get off of this so I can talk to you. You've started something, stop sharing. Um, you've started something that you just love and enjoy. You've made this beautiful product and software so others can just make these gorgeous images. I mean, you shared a Nikon, which I'm going to share down below, you guys, is the Nikon site, and a lot of them they use Zerene. You're just like, wow, some of this stuff is just so gorgeous. So I have a question. So what is your plans? Like, are you still going to just keep doing Zerene, or are you going to just shoot? What you said you were bored. I'm just curious. What is your future of?
Well, I never know. One of the interesting things about the position I'm in now is I have a lot of people who write to me saying, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do another thing? A lot of times the answer is, oh, well, the trick is you just use these features and you do this. But some of the times the answer is, oh, well, actually nobody knows how to do that. Nobody ever. And someplace in the middle is, well, that's hard. But you can kind of sort of do it like this. And so a lot of the development of Zerene from here on out is going to be making it easier to do things that used to be hard to do. And I'm not going to tell you any of the details.
That's okay.
My requested features list, I will share, is on the order of 300 items long.
Wow, really?
Yes, I need never fear Alzheimer's. I need never fear running out of things to do.
That's awesome. Now, what a great life. Now, I did see that the Cam Ranger, you shared some Cam Ranger images, and I noticed that you have that with Zerene because, you know, like Helicon, you can't put a Cam Ranger with them.
Sure,
you can? Because I couldn't. It was crashing on me. So I have workshops, and so I was trying to do it, and it was crashing for some reason. And I think, or maybe it was Lightroom. Maybe it was Lightroom. Whereas Zerene, I'm taking shots of Zerene and I'm pushing it through. So I don't know. It just could be me.
Well,
but
I'm glad to hear that, of course. There are lots of opportunities for things to go wrong in this whole process. But Cam Ranger is kind of a standalone thing. It's a controller that plugs into the camera and provides a wireless connection to something like a tablet. It is actually my tool of choice these days on those rare occasions when I go to a conference and I'm going to be at a table actually talking to people real time. I set up with a camera with a Cam Ranger attached to it, and that's sitting on the desktop looking at, you know, a dead wasp or something. Meanwhile, I'm walking around the front of the table and standing shoulder to shoulder with whoever I'm talking to, holding a tablet in my hand. And showing them. So there we have the schematic view. This is a picture of a tablet which is sitting inside my kitchen, talking to the Cam Ranger and the camera, which is sitting out on my back deck, taking a picture of some geranium flowers.
And that's awesome too, because you could just chill and bugs fly around. They won't even be bothered with you, and you know you can do your stuff. So that's great. I mean,
yeah, and none of this to this point has anything to do with Zerene. This is just a Cam Ranger controlling the camera to acquire a focus stack.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say next. It's like you use the Cam Ranger to get the focus stack, and then pull it into Zerene. You know what you're doing, and this makes it nice for you to be able to have all the information here. Because I have a Cam Ranger also. I love it. It's really cool. So that's what you've been up to now is you're using let me stop screen sharing so we can chat again. So you like playing with the Cam Ranger?
My work area often looks like an explosion in an optics and camera shop. There's all sorts of positioning devices sitting around and lighting arrangements and lenses and cameras. And like I say, I seldom set up exactly the same setup twice. There's also a counter, which is loaded with things that I intend to take pictures of, but haven't quite gotten around to it yet. The dead tiny wasps, one of the bizarre experiences this summer was I happened to be out picking raspberries, saw that on one of the raspberries there was a raft of eggs from a stink bug, and something looked a little bit odd about it. And what looked odd turned out to be, when I hauled out my 10x magnifier, that there was a parasitic wasp underneath the raft of eggs.
Oh, wow.
Little tiny wasp, total length about a ½ millimeter for the wasp.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah,
that's, I shot some live stuff of it, and those, but the remaining eggs and the corpse of the expired parasitic wasp remained to be photographed at high magnification.
See, now I know why you carry that. You're like, oh, hey, now you get to see it. You're like, okay, you're my next portrait.
Well, one of my theories is that everything is more interesting if you look closer at it. And I figure there's really nothing that I can see clearly with my naked eyes. Haul out magnification, there's something down there that I can't see, and it's probably interesting.
Oh, yeah, for sure, isn't it? I think so, too. I mean, we're looking at your table with, that's dirty, and I think it's just like, how do you clean it? And it's just so neat to see the different world that we all see when we get up close. And every single person that watches this show loves to do that. Becky, she's obsessed. I mean, I can just go through all the people that watch the show that just love this kind of stuff. And I just, again, I'm just so happy that you've come over and joined us and shared your work. And Zerene, we'll have Zerene down in here. There was also, there was something about the wing scales. Let me see if I can get that. I wanted to ask you about this. Let me get it over real quick before we start wrapping things up. And I want to screen share and let's go. What is this? So is this something that is that I was curious about this? Is it says it's a sunset moth. I've never seen any color like this before, so I was kind of interested. Like, what is this? The wing? This is the wing, or what? Tell me a little bit about this. So, it's just one scale.
If you have those images in sequence, if you can back up to the previous one.
Sure. Let me see.
Showing the live moth.
Oh, here we go. Oh my gosh! Are you kidding me?
The live Madagascan sunset moth, as photographed by Paul Bergner, a professional nature photographer. He's also one of the participants in the photomicrography forum. He posted out this image, and I thought it was really nice, partly just as an image, and also because you can see the gold scales, that band of gold on the hind wing, right through there, exactly. Mm. If you get one of these as a specimen, and you can just buy them, these things are farmed commercially, so
gotcha.
It's a sustainable effort. You don't have to worry when you buy a specimen of one of these things.
Okay, gotcha.
If you stick it under a microscope and you crank up the magnification about 200 power, then you can see wonderful detail in the individual scales. And now's the time to go to the image you started with. Exactly. This is what you would see through a very high power microscope. This is one of these individual frame on the left, stacked image on the right. Clearly, in an individual frame, you're not going to see very much, and that's a fundamental feature of physics. If you want high resolution, you do not get depth of field. Yes. But if you stack, in this case, a few hundred images, you can make that image on the right. And if you zoom in a little bit more, I think there's probably even more detail to see. There you go.
Oh yeah, look at that! Look at that!
Very
oh my gosh!
On those scales.
That's amazing, everyone! Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
If you zoom back out, I think I said how wide a field you're looking at this point. That's like. Let's see.
There's 2 point. Is this? Oh, it says
right there in the title box.
There it is.
Right.
0.002.
No. Yeah.
Right? Oh,
well, that's the focus step. But
that's the step.
Yeah, you're looking at an area on the wing that's 1/10 of a millimeter wide.
Oh my God, that is so amazing to me. Wow, and it's beautiful. It's like an abstract too. I mean, I know you're scientific, but for me, I'm like, look at the color and the lines and it's a moth, and it's a moth, a butterfly.
It's actually a moth.
Oh, it is a moth. It is a moth.
It's one of the very few moths that flies around during the daytime and has flashy colors, so it acts just like a butterfly, but
I would think
biologically
totally.
it's not.
Yeah, no, it is a beautiful. Wow. Okay, let me get over here and stop screen sharing. All right, let me see if there's any questions or anybody. I haven't even like looked. I've been so involved here. I haven't seen anything. AD, is there anything? Because you know what? I think I got out of Face. Okay, okay, awesome. We're good to go. Oh, good, good. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. Yeah, this is great. Well, I guess that's unless you want to say, is there anything you? I'm going to put the Zerene down below. I'm going to put the links down below that you have given me, and the, all the goodies. Is there anything that you would like to tell anybody else before I wrap it up and tell them about the rest of what's going on in a couple weeks?
Well, I'm just about talked out here. We did do that one experiment earlier with the video, screen sharing the video. Are you interested in seeing that for your audience?
Sure. Let's do it. Let's do it. We're gonna have Rik do a screen share. I totally forgot about that. Hey.
I clicked the wrong button. I'm gonna do this.
See, that's what I use.
There we go.
Okay, tell them what this is.
So I'm going to click the button that plays this as a video. What you're looking at here is a video that was put together by a fellow in the Netherlands a few years ago. It actually won an award at the Olympic Bioscapes competition. It looks for all the world like a flyover of some surrealistic alien forest. But what it really is mold, ordinary mold, seen through a high-power microscope. Now, the hilarious thing about this is that this entire sequence you're watching now, with these large prawns moving around, I asked the guy, so how did you move the camera? How do you do motion control for this? And he says, no, it's all in Zerene. I said, seriously, how do you do motion control for this? He says, it's all in Zerene. I had to ask the guy about 4 times before I figured out what he was telling me. He actually shot one stack to make this sequence. And then he processed it through Zerene using the same type of settings that I designed to do stereo.
Oh, okay.
He co-opted that capability to render from a whole bunch of different off-axis angles and assembled it into this video. So what appears to be tens of thousands of shutter actuations was actually only about 1,000. And then processing a whole bunch of times of the same stack through the Zerene Stacker.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
That's amazing.
It was really funny for me because I looked at the video and I was like, gosh, this is great. How did you do that? And it turns out he did it just by using stuff that I provided in a way that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, see, that's great. And so, and when you found, now did you say he was part of the forum? Is that how you found?
Yeah, he's
okay.
He's a member of the forum, and he also prepared this video and submitted it to the Olympus Bioscapes imaging competition.
Right.
And won an award there. And I think I found out about it because somebody else posted the announcement of the award into the forum.
Oh, okay. That's how I went. That was my question: is how'd you find it? Because there's probably so many things like that you don't even know about. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh, and thank you again for being here, everyone. For you being here, and thanks for everyone else being here, and also dealing with our mix-up that Janice did. So you stick with this a little longer. I promised you, Rik, it would only be an hour.
You're very welcome. It's fun being here. I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to this particular book. This is
Sure.
Bugs Up Close. I hope you can see that. This particular book is just chock full of images like our friend let's see, I got to figure out where to hold this thing.
Yeah, I can see it. Oh, wow.
So this is just the face of a particular wasp. And this book's, I think, 190 pages. And it's just completely full of focus stacked images done by this fellow in Sweden.
Oh.
Again, I mean, he was an IT guy with a photography hobby who's now apparently making a living entirely with his macro photography, and he used Zerene to do all of that, and I'm just ecstatic. Wonderful.
Oh yes, I'd like to get that book and put the link down below to to share with everyone.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to Amazon for that. It's actually very inexpensive, as are all books now, pretty much.
I know, isn't it? I mean, I read all the time, and I'm actually, I guess we score as people that actually like to flip the pages nowadays. Everything's cheap, but that is beautiful, and yeah, I bet you it does feel really good inside to know that the work has come from what you've made. So. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's beautiful, too, the way it's printed.
Yeah, well, again, I'm just an enabler. The artistry is entirely his.
Yeah, I could say that, but you're still an artist in your own way because you've designed this. I know it's technical, but still, I mean, you've done something amazing. And so I want to thank you, and I know many others want to thank you for doing that. So we appreciate you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. All right, you guys, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. I just want to let you know that our next show will be in 2 weeks. It'll be, what is it? What day is it? October? Wait.
It's October 25th today.
25th. So it's November. November 7th, I think, is the next show. Yes, and that will be just with little old me. So mark your calendars, and if you love the show, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends for sure. And check us out over in Facebook, and I will have all the goodies that Rik has shared with us down below the video once we get things wrapped up. Give me a couple days, or Ashley, she helps me out. And definitely check out Zerene, because Zerene also, you can try it for 30 days, correct? Is that what you have? 30 days free?
Yeah, it's completely unrestricted, full capability for 30 days.
Gotta try it, guys. You gotta try it.
I'm very old school.
No, that's great. You can't. I mean, I'm addicted to it. So wonderful. We haven't, I did a video, a beginning one. I'm going to do a couple more videos on Zerene. So check out the YouTube channel that I have. I push things out every Thursday. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And again, thank you again, Rik. It's just was such a pleasure having you. See you later, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.